Hi friends, welcome back. In this video, we will see how to find out when we are changing a parameter in PostgreSQL whether it requires a restart or a reload. We can decide by checking the parameter context from PG settings whether the parameter requires a reload or it requires restart of the PostgreSQL service. If the context value is internal, these settings cannot be changed directly. So some of these settings can be adjusted by rebuilding the server or by changing the settings provided by initdb. Usually values like block size, some other configuration which we usually give during the cluster initialization, those parameters comes under this context. Mostly we will be dealing with the parameters which has context value either postmaster or SIAP. So if we find any parameter with a context of postmaster, these settings can be applied when the server starts. So any change for these kind of parameters which has a context of postmaster requires restarting of the server. If you are changing a parameter whose context is SIAP, changes to these settings can be made in postgresql.conf without restarting the server, which means a reload of service is enough to reflect these parameter changes. Similarly, these are the other context values you can go through. Now I will connect to PostgreSQL server and try to change a couple of parameters. I have connected to my machine. Let me switch to Postgres user. Let me connect to pSQL prompt. Let me query the value for workmem. It is 4096 KB. I'm setting border just for better visibility. It is 4 MB right now. I want to change it to 5 MB. For that, I will go ahead and edit postgresql.conf. To know the location of PostgreSQL conf file, this is the location of config file. So before editing the file, it is always recommended to take a backup of the file. Now search for workmem. So here it is mentioned as 4 MB. Just for the sake of demonstration, I randomly chose this parameter. When you are increasing this parameter, please keep in mind that this parameter change is applicable for each and every connection. So unless there is a real requirement, we usually won't increase this parameter much because this is not for entire database level. This is this parameter applicable for each connection. So if we are allocating 4 MB, each connection can consume 4 MB. Copy this line and P to paste it. I'm making this 5 MB. Write and quit. Since the context for this parameter is user, as you see here, these settings can be set from postgresql.conf file or in the session using set command. Now we can reload the configuration in two ways, either using systemctl reload or we can connect to pSQL prompt and use pSQL reload conf. Let me execute this one. I have already changed it in the file, but it will not reflect until we reload the service. So it is not reflected yet. Let me execute this command. Reload completed. Now you can see the workmem increased to 5 MB. Now let's see what is the context value for max connections parameter. You can see the context is postmaster. These parameter changes requires restart of the server. We can change this parameter or any parameter in postgresql.conf file, or we can also use SQL like this: alter system set, the parameter and the value. Earlier parameter I have made changes to this file, so let me go ahead and execute this command this time. I'm increasing the max connections from 100 to 105. Let me try to reload the configuration to see it is reflecting without a restart. It will not. So reload successful. Let me query the parameter again. Still I can see 100 connections only. Whatever we set, this setting is not reflected because it requires restart. If you observe here, pending restart was false here. Once we reloaded the configuration, it is showing pending restart as true. Now let's go ahead and restart PostgreSQL 15 service. Please note that this requires a downtime for few seconds. So when you are doing it on the production environment, you need to get a confirmation from application team. You may have respective change request in place. Let me restart. So since we are Postgres user, it is asking password. So if you don't know the password, we can set the password by switching to root user and password Postgres. We can set a new password. Now let me switch back to Postgres user and execute the same command again. So it is reporting Postgres is not in the sudoers file. Any user that is executing sudo commands should be added first into sudoers file from the root user. Let me go ahead and add Postgres user in the sudoers list. I'm adding Postgres user. Just copy pasting these things. Save the settings. Again switching back to Postgres user and running the same command. It is executed. It is running and started 8 seconds ago. Now let's connect to pSQL prompt. Query the parameter, whether the value is reflected or not. You can see the connections increased from 100 to 105 and pending restart showing false. Let's query these two parameters just to see the current values. So we can see workmem 5 MB and max connections 105. Although we can change the settings in both ways, one from postgresql.conf file and the second way using alter system command. In my opinion, changing the parameters in postgresql.conf is the better way because whatever parameters we change using the alter system command, they won't get updated in this file. They will be added to postgresql.auto.conf file. There is one more configuration file in the data directory. Let's see that. You can see whatever max connections parameter you added with the alter system command, the same parameter added to this file. For example, in case if the next person who is updating this particular parameter in this specific file, he will not see the latest value of the max connections. And one more thing, if a parameter is mentioned in both files, postgresql.conf and postgresql.auto.conf, auto.conf will be given the first priority. For example, if I mention max connections value 500 in postgresql.conf, right now I have 105 value for max connections in postgresql.auto.conf. Even after restart, I can still see 105 as the value for max connections, although I have mentioned 500 in postgresql.conf file because this specific file will be given the first priority. So it will create a confusion for the next resource who will be adding or updating the parameters after you. So let's check that scenario. I have 105 connections here, but right now I want to increase it to 200. I will go ahead and update postgresql.conf file. Here I have updated the value. Let me save. I will go ahead and restart PostgreSQL service. Service is restarted 6 seconds ago. Now let me go ahead and connect to pSQL prompt. You can see the max connection parameter not changed because the auto.conf file have given the priority. Now let me stop PostgreSQL service and then remove this particular entry from autoconf file. Please note that it is not recommended to edit this file manually. For the sake of demonstration, I am editing it. It is not recommended on the real environments. I have deleted the parameter and saving the file. Now let me start PostgreSQL service. Service started. Now you can see max connections increased to 200. I hope you got the priority of parameters from different PostgreSQL configuration files. Thanks for your time. See you in the next lecture.